Hello, everyone, and welcome to Revolution Cast. I'm your host, Hank Davis. Revolution Cast is brought to you by PodcastDirector.com. Learn how to podcast. And AudioEditingServices.com. Reclaim the time you spend on editing your audio files. Joining me on the line, he's my partner in crime. He's Mr. Alex Cruz. How the heck are you, Alex?
Hey, I'm great and stuffed full of turkey. I couldn't eat turkey for another whole year.
Nice. You look small on my screen, though. Get it? That's awesome. Alex, we've got a lot to cover here on the show that's nobody's fault. It's called. This episode was titled Ratings. Do you have some ratings?
Got some ratings, and it's kind of funny they use another Zeppelin song as a title.
Yeah.
I digress. All right, ratings, everybody. This is going to be way cool because our ratings are. Oh, I digress. Okay, rating. Here we are. No, that can't be right. Oh,
welcome to live.
So I have 8.7, which, if we compare it to previous, there we are, and there, yeah, 8.7. We're at 8.7, which is the third best in the whole season.
Awesome.
And I'm going back and let's see. The pilot episode did 11.65 million with the second episode of Chain Heat doing 9.21, and doesn't get any better. And then that would be the third best one.
Oh my goodness. I'm kind of shocked.
So,
are you shocked?
I'm pleasantly shocked. I was worried, and I know you and I talked about this a little bit before we went on air as to the survival of the show.
Yes.
If it was those dismal numbers we were getting from the last couple weeks.
Yeah. I would have been really concerned going into this hiatus with a crappy rating, but now I'm kind of hopeful.
Yeah, and again, the only thing I don't like about this is we have like 4 more episodes left in the whole season.
I think only 3.
3. I don't know. I guess we're going to have to wait and find out. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be up for renewal. I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, but I hope that's not an issue, but didn't we say this once before?
You know what? I know when we did the V podcast, the numbers were iffy.
Yeah, they were.
And I think they were much lower than...
Oh, it wasn't even close to this.
Right. So I think we're setting pretty good.
Okay.
However, let me go and see where the V numbers were at this time, and I should be able to
give us a little insight on where we're at.
Right.
Overall, this episode, you know, when you kind of step back from the series and look at this episode on its own, were you pleasantly surprised or not?
I really like this. I really like this episode.
Yeah, they jammed a lot into a short show.
And you know what? And it was funny because I know we'll be talking about this, but how quickly in the episode that mother and daughter were reunited.
Yeah, it was very fast. Like we said, they kind of, I think we've been saying for weeks now, they kind of cut the fat and they just go straight through. They just like bam, 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 bam. It's irrelevant how this gets to this, gets to this. Here's your payoff. So shall we just start our review of this episode?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Did we want those V numbers?
I mean, if you can find it, you know, we'll interject, but no big deal.
That's yeah. Let me get back to that.
So we start out at a firefight, and it's 5 years after the blackout. And this one was called the Trenton Campaign. So I don't know if that's supposed to be like the Bourne Identity Treadstone, but
Well,
it's
Trenton campaign. I know that. Well, I'm sure they're referring to
yeah,
Trenton, New Jersey.
yes. So
So this is probably when the militia was trying to gain control of the whole area.
so Miles and Monroe are talking about using swords to save bullets, and Miles is just cracking up like, "Oh
And
yeah, right."
they're making jokes about it, which I thought that was awesome because um, what's going to happen is of course is there will be no bullets left, and that's all they have to resort to.
And I love that. I love that they were just sitting there making that reference like that, and then it's like, you don't know how true that is, guys. But Miles was injured there. You seen that blood that he had on his hand?
Yeah. Now I wasn't sure if that was a bullet wound or a shrapnel wound.
That's what I was thinking. It was a shrapnel wound.
That's what I was kind of thinking too.
And he's like, "Hey, just leave me," and stuff. And Monroe, they set this up early and often where Monroe and him are interacting, and Monroe's like, "I'm not gonna leave you behind," blah blah blah.
Yeah, see, that's why I like this episode because we actually got the full dynamic of that relationship, which
Yes,
it was really never revealed like that before, and I thought it was awesome.
I did too. So Miles, Charlie, Nora, and Aaron have made it to Philly, obviously, but Charlie is in bad shape. And okay, so last week we were you started it. We were kind of complaining about, how people heal up so super quick. And then to start the episode off, Charlie's like leaning on Nora, and then her head's bleeding again. What did you make of that?
Well, you know what, it was really funny because as you stated, yeah, that's kind of been an issue with these miraculous healings at the last minute, and with Nora helping out Charlie like that, and then Charlie, I thought, well, maybe this might be an issue for Charlie, but I'm going to go ahead and spoil it for it. It seems to be a non-issue for the rest of the episode. This was really the
Yes.
only case where it was an issue.
Yes, they start something and then they're like, it's over.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how they did that too.
Nora goes to this Major's door. This had to be one of the funniest thing, Major Kipling, and she like boosting up her breasts. You can see her from the peephole, view kind of, and she's pushing up her boobs, and she's like, "Yeah, you have me for the whole night and stuff." And he's like opening that door, like, "Yeah, come on in." And Miles is like, "I knew this would work on you." But I thought that was so funny that the way they presented that was kind of funny to me.
Yeah, it told about this character, even though we see him just very briefly in this episode. And does that guy look? Did that guy look a little familiar to you?
Yes, he does. Yes, he's actually a decent actor, and I
Yeah,
was shocked that they don't have more for him.
So what? Night Court, I think, if I remember right, and I don't remember the name of the character.
I think you are right. Awesome. So Monroe is waking up, and it's Neville telling him about Miles being in Philly. So how does Monroe get this info all the time?
He must have eyes everywhere.
But here's the thing that doesn't make sense to me. How would that guy that injured Charlie, ended up injuring Charlie, and they killed him, that was going to take Miles back, how would he have sent word? When would he have sent word, and how would he have sent word?
Well, as we know, this show is famous for not making sense.
Because that makes no sense to me whatsoever. I was sitting there like, okay, I mean, it's plausible, but why wouldn't you show us that? Why wouldn't you show him having somebody else he's working with in that rebel group and say, just off to the side, like, deliver this message. Leave us hanging if it's for the rebels or if he's a traitor, at that point. And then this could have been the callback.
And again, it's like not revealed how this information had gotten to him.
Yeah.
And so this kind of remind me of it's funny. My daughter and I were watching The Empire Strikes Back, and there's that scene right near the end of The Empire Strikes Back after Darth Vader had fought Luke Skywalker, and then all of a sudden he appears on the Super Star Destroyer. And when Lucas kind of dabbled in that movie, he shot a scene showing Darth Vader walking in on a shuttle, and then the shuttle actually taking off and landing on the Super Star Destroyer. Kind of like people were just added that little detail on there, which I saw that they didn't really need that little detail in there, because I assumed he took off from Cloud City, went to the Super Star Destroyer. Okay. However, even though that didn't need to be shown, I think we should have seen that other detail with Monroe getting that information from somebody.
Yeah. Neville having his little snoops everywhere or something. It would have been great. Somebody gave him a high eyebrow even.
I think, since they don't have much technology, this is what probably happened. You've seen those soup commercials where they have the cans and they pull them tight and they go ring, ring? I think that's what happened.
Yes. That happens a lot on this show. So Neville is like telling Monroe, hey, maybe you should head to the Boston headquarters or whatever while we clean this up and stuff. And Monroe is insulted that Neville don't think he can do the job there. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And you know what? I think this is just kind of foreshadowing as to, it's like how we talked about earlier, how we're going to see Neville kind of jump ship. And that would most likely, I was hoping we're going to see more of it this episode, but
to be honest, this would have been the perfect episode to pull that off.
Right.
In my opinion, there's going to be a couple of points in here where I'm like, I was waiting. I was like, it should have happened. Oh, it should have happened there. Oh, it didn't. But Miles and Kipling are talking about, hey, what are you going to do when you come face to face with Monroe? And Miles is like, well, I'll have to kill him. And then we're confronted with the same thing over and over. I mean, they've been teasing this for weeks now of, can Miles kill him when it comes time? And this is another one where I think he's just trying to reassure himself that, when I see him, I'm going to kill him. But Charlie and company are sleeping when the militia come in. And I was like, oh my gosh, Kipling ratted him out that fast, which I wouldn't have blamed him. He had to save his own butt, because you get caught helping them, you're dead meat. But Nope. It's our good buddy Tom Neville, who just happens to know that that's what they would do. That's where they would be there.
And again, it wasn't revealed. See, that's why I didn't like about this part here. It wasn't revealed, and the Major, we know he wasn't the one that did, where everyone thought it was.
Yeah, so, and it's sometimes it's just like, how do you do this? How are you pulling these little magic tricks? What's your next trick? What do I got in my pocket right now? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I think they have a magic rabbit.
They have something, because, I mean, he's just really adept at figuring this stuff out, and it's pretty interesting. So did they drug Charlie? Is that what they did? Or what
they did? Yeah, it was some type of. I think it was some type of sleeping drug to kind of dope her out, because if not, she was going to kick some butt.
And this is what I didn't understand. So they do that, and then they put her in the cell with Rachel, but she's fine. So I wonder if time had passed in between there or not, because it's reunion time in the cell. And to me, the way Charlie's like standoffish from Rachel makes perfect sense. But I was thinking during their exchange that Rachel it felt like Rachel was pumping her for information. And I was like, are we
Yeah,
going to see
I-
another tour? Is Rachel going to do something even more heinous? Is what I was honestly thinking that way. What about you?
Yeah, I know my opinion. I thought this all happened a little too quickly, and we're still in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the show that this is all happening.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's like, you know what? We're having all of these reveals that we've been like anticipating the whole beginning of the season, and now it's finally happening. But is it happening too quick?
Yeah, it did seem to go
I don't
pretty
know.
quick. And then Neville says he remembers Aaron Pittman, the Wizard of Google.
This was cool. I love this scene.
And Neville is giving him a good going over. When the power was on, you were all high and mighty. You were a big shot. And now that the power's out, look at me. I was like, oh my gosh. He was like, and you're nothing. And you're waiting for Miles to save your fat butt. I was like, this is awesome, man. Oh my goodness. I love when he gives these lectures.
And it was funny too because you know what, we know Aaron's kind of insecure about that, and so for him to call him out on it, I was waiting for Aaron to go psycho on him, but now he just took it all in and
Yeah.
he's like, keep on talking.
Because he's been bucking up for weeks now. So I was thinking to myself, like, oh, maybe Aaron will bring his A game and, challenge the major and, kind of challenge him on his own turf and stand up. But no, he didn't. But what was the funniest thing out of this was at the end of that exchange, Neville's like, however, I was a big fan of your work. Where did that come from? What? I mean, that was so strange. Like, yeah,
back in the old world, But it's not the old world.
You were awesome, though. It was great to me. I thought that was so much fun.
It's like I had respect for you back then, but now this is a whole new ball game.
And then we go back to Rachel and Charlie in that cell, and Rachel's like, I don't know. She was like fast talking to me, and Charlie is just like, whatever. She's not buying it. She's not going to be easily overtaken by emotions and stuff anymore. And Rachel's like, you've grown up, haven't you? And it was that acknowledgement of, yeah, you're not buying my crap, which I just love that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like that character. I still don't. And
yeah,
Charlie gave her some grief, which she readily deserved.
Definitely deserved. And my girlfriend had pointed out something, because my girlfriend listens to this podcast, unbeknownst to me until just a couple of days ago. And she said, didn't you guys find it odd how when Rachel seen Danny, she wasn't like, to her knowledge anyway, or to mine either, was she didn't really say much about, where's Charlie or how's Charlie, and Danny didn't really say anything about like, well, Charlie risked her life to try to save me and all that. You know what I mean? It was just like no conversation about family.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that don't make any sense for a mother who left her little kids, who walked away from her kids.
And she's been gone for what, 15 years now?
She's been gone for quite a while. Maybe not 15 total, but a lot. Long enough. All right, let's get back to the recap. Miles realizes what's happening while Rachel is twisting screws with her bare fingers. Can every character on this show twist screws, or is it just a Matheson? Because Danny on the wagon, he twisted screws with his bare fingers. Rachel does it. We'll see Charlie do it.
I'm not sure if it's a Matheson thing or just stuff that Rachel's side of the family can do.
We were always very strong grip. I'm like, geez, those are some fingers. Because I don't think I could unscrew a screw, and I have about 18-inch biceps. I don't think I could with my bare, just Ooh, I'm just twisting on it. I got it. I'm like, no. So this is where I thought Rachel appeared to be pumping Charlie for information. But just then, the creepiest man on the planet comes into there, and he really disturbed me with his "he's aroused" comment.
Yeah, I thought, oh, this can't be going anywhere good.
I thought it was a little much, though. You
Hmm.
know, even for this type of show. Um, I don't know. It stuck out in a
And I'll
really
tell you what, I had a funny feel, the same funny feeling that I had a few nights ago when the latest Walking Dead episode came on. There was a similar situation in which one of the characters, she was
oh
being,
yeah, yep. Take your
I don't know
shirt
if,
off.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I know what you're talking
And
about.
it
Ugh.
was like almost a rape situation. And I'm like, oh crap, here we go again.
Yeah, and
And
I thought that was really inappropriate. I don't know. I understand the situation of that they're in the show or whatever, but I really could have done without his creepiness in this episode. Was really over the top for me.
yeah,
Neville is surprised by Miles, who has his sword to Julia's neck, and Miles wants to play. Let's make a deal, Tom. But Neville is very upset over the situation, and did Miles initially ask for Nora and Aaron, or did he ask for the kids?
I think he asked for the kids, and then he gets Nora and Aaron.
Yeah, and I was like, that doesn't, it just caught me off guard because I was like, wait a minute, I thought he asked for the kids, but
Right.
this is when Charlie and Danny are reunited anyway in a cell of their own, sort of.
Hmm.
Um, Neville brings Nora and Aaron to Miles, and he can't bring Charlie and Danny because they are at the power plant outside the city with Monroe. And Neville tells Miles, I'm gonna kill you someday for this. And I was like, oh, could this be a callback that we're going to have to deal with maybe at the end of season 1?
Very well could be. I liked also her comment to Miles saying, you know what, I'm not one of those girls that are going to whine and cry and plead for her life.
Yeah, and we kind of get the gist of her being tough from the last couple
Right.
episodes. So Monroe finally makes an appearance in front of Charlie and Danny. And Monroe had an amplifier that he was having made by Brad until Rachel killed Brad. Then it didn't get finished. And then the sicko asked Rachel, hey, which kid do you want me to kill? You're going to have to make up your mind. And Charlie volunteers, which I thought was pretty upstanding of her. And she is fulfilling her honor to oversee Danny in her
And
father's absence.
I thought this was kind of cool because we've seen just how much this character has grown from the first episode all the way up to now. She's not the same character that we saw at first.
Not at all. The Fellowship arrives at the power plant, and Aaron thinks he knows how they'll get in. And then Rachel is listening to the creepy jerk talk about he could eat peaches all day. That was so freaking unnerving and weird. I was just uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to see this.
And you know what? When he started talking about peaches all day,
You didn't
take
get
it
the
for being
reference?
I didn't take it for being actual peaches. You know, I
Yeah.
got
Oh no. Yeah.
the
He didn't
I
either.
got the entendre part of
Yeah.
it.
He said the entendre. And I
It's like I
love
can't
it.
believe they could say this on network TV.
Me neither. I'm like 10 o'clock at night. No, I don't want, I don't even want to risk a kid seeing or hearing some weird crap like that.
Yeah.
Ugh, creepy. But our good friend, is it Jeremy? Jeremy,
Yes.
that is our
Jeremy.
hilarious friend and also an actor on Supernatural. He shows up out of nowhere, and, and then he asks Monroe, hey, what's the orders when Miles shows up? insinuating kind of that, hey, Sebastian, you won't be able to kill him. Do you want us to kill him? You know? And I think Sebastian's starting to really take exception to everybody having that same thought about, you can't get the job done. You won't be able to do it when it comes time. And I think he's getting tired of hearing that. But I love Jeremy. Love him. He's freaking hilarious. He's fun and good for the show. They need more. They need more of him. I mean, he's too good of an actor to leave.
And you know what? Is this like the second time we see him this season? Because I know that one season or the one episode he was in there quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then we basically don't see him again. But now we see him again for
a hot
during
second.
This episode.
Yeah, a hot second.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, can you show up for the finale? Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. You're out there. So now we're thrust 2 years before the blackout. Miles pulls up to the cemetery. And I didn't look at his radio, but I don't think it was a tape deck. Monroe. Or, what was that?
8-track?
Yeah. I don't think so. Monroe was having a liquid family dinner by the grave or graves of his family. And it appears that that his family was all wiped out by a drunk driver on their way to go see a Harry Potter movie. And I was like, what? I was like, I have to ask Alex about that. He knows more about Harry Potter than me.
Yeah, I kind of thought it had something to do with the Batman movie, but I apologize. That was in bad taste.
That was a deserving of this.
What you talking about,
There we go. All right, that's been taken care of.
But yeah, you know, I didn't do the math or anything to find out how, if that could have been legit or not. But I think, to me, what was shocking with this is we see the 4 graves at the end of the scene.
Yeah, just the way he was acting, I knew he wasn't playing around. Just
right.
You know, in my opinion, it didn't seem like he was pulling any kind of con or anything like that. So Miles tells Monroe that, hey, you have me. We've been brothers our whole lives, you know.
Right.
And Monroe actually had a gun, and I didn't see it. But he had a gun, and Miles was like, hey, can you give me that gun? And stuff. So that was really...
You know what? I thought the same thing. Kind of thought, you know what? That would have been another detail that would have been good if they would have kind of... It would have been seen more.
Okay. Yeah.
But I thought it was a powerful... Like I said, it was a powerful scene anyway, and... I love this scene. Now, to me, I know most of the flashback scenes were showing the relationship with Miles and Monroe.
Yes.
And it was wonderful.
I agree with you. That's a really good way for us to understand why they have so much trouble duking it out with each other.
Right.
Because they are like brothers. I mean, that's right. How they act. Like, I'll kick your butt. But then when push comes to shove, actually, I'm not going to.
Right.
So back in the holding cell, Charlie is unscrewing bolts with her bare hands, and her and Danny are frantically trying to escape, but it was actually a trap because I thought Charlie was already through that little vent, but she wasn't. She was behind the door waiting for that guard to come in, and she smashes him with the grate and picks up his gun. And Danny's like, do you know how to use that thing? And Charlie's like, I guess I'm going to have to learn.
I was waiting for her to say, hell yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was going to say, what do you think I've been doing on this way trying to get to you, you fool? But you can see Danny looking at her like, who are you?
What'd you do with my sister?
What did you do with her? So Aaron shows the fellowship the way into the power plant, and then Nora gives him some explosives, and I sit there and go, where were these last week? Where was this backpack full of explosives last week? This is what I don't like about... This is some frustrating stuff for me when I get into they have certain things they need at certain times, and then at other times they don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And that really irritates me because you could write that into anything.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. You should lay it out like, hey, when we got to this, we stole some. Hey, that was cool that we were able to steal some more explosives. Just say something like that at the beginning of the episode, and then go on.
just add that little detail, and
yeah.
It's like it seems like I said, they're pulling stuff out of a hat. Say, okay, let's do this. We're not going to reveal how we did this. We're just going to do it anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am totally with you. So she wants Aaron to blow, I guess, make some noise when push comes to shove, if they're not going to make it back out. And he's like, how am I going to not, how will I know? And she's like, oh, you'll know. And I was like, that's not good. Because I was thinking to myself, you know what? Aaron, for all the leaps he's made in these last few weeks, I don't think he's the right guy for this job. Not with explosives. So Rachel has made the amplifier work. And then here comes Mr. Creepy once again. And several inept militia guards are patrolling the power plant, unaware that Miles and Nora are just racing through. Could you maybe pick some better positions? I don't know. They're just walking back, marching back and forth. And I'm like, if wouldn't this be part of the training where you'd be like, well, I've got to be able to see there's an entrance point. There's an entrance point. They've been at this place for how many years? And they don't know, like, this is where somebody would come if they were going to come through. I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of like, again, another Star Wars reference. The stormtroopers aren't the smartest dudes possible. And in fact, in episode 4, we even see a stormtrooper conking his head on the top of the entranceway. So, go figure.
I love when I see Aaron at they just kind of pan back to Aaron at that opening, and he's just like he's hiding, like he's scared to death, man. And I just thought that was the funniest little thing. But we quickly flash to Charlie and Danny, who are making their way around the facility, and then bullets just start flying. And apparently Charlie does know how to use that gun, at least a little bit, because she's like shooting a little bit, and then she stops, looks at the gun, shoots a little bit, stops, looks at the gun. I was like, well, she's doing it a little better than I thought. And then here goes Aaron, which I knew this was going to happen, and I thought it was going to have terrible consequences, because he like jumps the gun with the explosives. He's like, it's go time. It's time for me to do my thing, because that's another thing. How would he know who's doing what in there? He don't know. So he was just like, okay, it's time for me to blow stuff up. And Miles and Nora find Danny and Charlie. And then Miles is shocked that Rachel is alive when they tell him that.
That shocked me a little bit.
Why?
So did Monroe keep her all of this time and not tell anybody?
Or when did Miles actually leave? How many years has it been?
You know what? I took for granted that it wasn't all that long ago that he left. I would say since it takes place 15 years, I was going to guess and say maybe it's been about 2 or 3 years since he left.
Okay, because I don't know if there's anywhere on there where they make that clear.
Right.
How long he's been gone. But everybody seems to know him who's in the ranks. So can't have been that long.
No,
And then we still have to find out just what did Sebastian tell everybody about Rachel, because everybody seems to be shocked that she's alive. So I want to find out, hopefully in those last 3 episodes, they show us or tell us what was the story with people thinking she was dead.
Right.
What actually was message was sent out.
So what did he do? Have her hidden in a pit this whole time?
Nice.
And then what we see is Rachel smacked him right across the face, whopped him one.
Yeah, well, we haven't got to that yet, but it's coming. It's coming. Finally, Rachel kills someone who deserves it. So I think everybody in America was rooting. How many millions of people did you say were watching? Because they were all rooting for this scene to happen. And that's when Rachel kills the creep. Thank goodness. I was very happy for her. And then what did she say about what you did to me? Was she talking about the torture?
I think she's talking about the torture, and
Okay.
I'm kind of wondering if he like messed with her too earlier in her capture that wasn't seen on.
Yep, that's what I was thinking too, because that's
So
what
I
it
said,
sounded.
I wonder if he raped her or something.
That's what it sounded like. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that was some. They could have left that alone for me.
So
then
yeah, I think this was one character I'm glad that
Yeah.
they killed off.
yeah, he's too extreme.
Yeah.
This is when Miles and Rachel come face to face, because before Miles just heard that from Charlie and Danny. Now that they come face to face, and then they're like staring at each other, and I was like, is she gonna try to kiss him or what? You know what I mean? Then she slaps the taste out of his
Yeah,
mouth.
you kind of get that feeling like, oh, are they gonna start making out? But bam.
She smacks the taste out of his mouth.
Yep.
And then that's when Jeremy walks in, and he's like, Miles, you're like a bad penny. I was like, yes. I loved it. Because Miles, he has more lives than a cat. And the bullets start flying, and him and Rachel bail out of there. And then it's on. It's finally. He sends Rachel on, go find the kids and stuff. And then he's like face to face with Monroe. And then they go back to another memory. And I thought this one was really good too, where Monroe and Miles are kids.
I think this to me was my favorite one because I guess I didn't realize Miles and Monroe were childhood friends as well.
Yeah, me neither. And I was like, oh, they're little kids,
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. You know how kids say that. They don't mean anything by it. And it was kind of a good little diversion,
Right.
And then Miles just quickly wastes those militia guards that are by Monroe. And was that any shocker to anyone? I mean,
nope. And the stormtroopers were
red shirts, stormtroopers, whatever you want to call them.
Whatever you want.
I just want to see one flaming arrow sticking out of one of them, and I'll be like, okay, I'm good. And then we go back to the flashback again. And I like this one, too, because they make that M on there. And I always thought it was just Monroe Militia, but it's Miles and Monroe. That's their little Punisher symbol. It's our little symbol here. We're awesome. So I thought that was cool. And then Miles talks about Rachel being alive. So yeah, he was very shocked about that. Well, she's alive? How's she still alive? Blah blah blah. And then Monroe says that he's Miles' family. And he's like comparing himself to Aaron. He's running down the list. Ben, get out of here. Rachel, come on. Danny and Charlie, oh, they're too little. You know what I mean? They don't have been through all the stuff we've been through. And I was like, geez, dude, way to kind of give yourself a little bit too much credit. And Monroe lays down the gun. He's like, you're not gonna kill me. He's just puts his gun down to his side, and he's like, I just want you to come back. It hasn't been the same without you being here. And then
and I think I predicted last episode that, you know what, we're going to see at the end of this episode Miles returning to the militia.
Yes, you did. And it
kind
of
of like, here
it.
we go.
It looked like it because Miles is like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, uh-oh. But this, to be honest with you, right here was when I thought we would see Major Neville assert himself and waste Monroe and be like, get out of here, Miles. And try to usurp, and take control or something. That's what I thought we would see, but we didn't, obviously. And when Miles says he was sorry, he meant, I was sorry that I didn't kill you the first time. And I was like, oh, crap. And he's like, you're too far gone. And he is. I mean, Monroe is really weird now. And Miles says that Monroe is nothing to him. And that's when you see Monroe just snap and it's fight time. And
my wife and I were watching together. So here's the big lightsaber battle. And
Join
my wife
me.
was disappointed because she thought I was literally talking about lightsabers and stuff. You mean they got lightsabers on this? I said, no, they don't. They have lightsabers.
All he had to say was, "Join me, and we can be the most powerful force in it."
Yeah. But she was asking me a question like, okay, which one of those guys is Darth Vader? Like, which one's the bad guy? And so I was explaining it all to her and all this stuff, and it was fun trying to explain it to her. And she was asking a question, how come they're so highly trained at that? So I said, well, they're former military guys, and she goes, oh, that makes sense.
Awesome, that's good. We might convert another listener.
I think so. Have another viewer to amp up those ratings. And now that Dancing with the Stars is done, I think she might be on board.
Awesome. So Aaron is laying the explosives, and I was thinking to myself, so I missed on the Neville part, and then I was thinking right there, okay, Aaron's gonna lay these explosives, and he's gonna screw up this fight. He's gonna blow Miles, knock him out or something, and mess this all up.
And you know what? It almost was like that too.
I really thought it was. I thought that's what was gonna happen. But Rachel joins Nora and the kids, while Aaron finally figures out how to light the explosives. And then Miles has to run for it because Jeremy and some other militia red shirts show up. And he kind of like ducks out a window or something. And I was like, oh, shoot. That didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. And then that explosive finally goes off. And Aaron blows a freaking big hole in the side of the wall, which was good.
And I kind of thought it was a little cheesy at first how he lit it. Like, what are the chances of you doing that from basically flint and steel kit that you can get from any camping place? I'm like,
that's what I thought about that.
Yeah.
But then Aaron and Rachel are reunited. So does Aaron know Rachel from when he met up with Ben? Or from something else?
That kind of surprised me a bit.
Me too.
And I wasn't sure if something that maybe I had forgotten and I need to go back and take a look at that or what.
I'm just trying to figure out, when did Aaron get with them as in relation to when did Rachel take off?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to figure out, because Aaron is with Ben, but
right.
Does he knew what was the other girl, Margaret?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he knew
Peggy.
her, but does he know Rachel in that?
Right.
It was just confusing for a second. Anyway, they're reunited, and then Miles shows up, and the Fellowship runs off. But right at the end, we see this helicopter lifting up, taking off, and they bear down on the gang when the show goes off the air. And haven't they been boasting for a week that somebody was gonna die?
You know what? I like this episode a lot. The end was very anticlimactic to me.
Definitely.
And this was why, because like I said, my wife and I are watching it together. I said, okay, watch this. One of the characters are going to die.
Yeah. Didn't they say that?
And then it ended.
They said that, though, last week, right?
That
dramatic
I'm
announcer.
not sure if they said that.
I'm sure that dramatic announcer voice, he was like, and then the team will lose someone or something. Somebody dies or something. And I was like, oh, crap. Who's it going to be? It's going to be, we must have spent like 5 minutes on that last week.
Right.
And then this episode, nobody died.
Right. You're correct. Nobody died.
I don't know. Nobody, no important good character, I'm saying. And they didn't say just anybody. They said somebody out of that group, I thought.
So as one of my favorite wrestlers used to say, what's up with that? What's up with that?
It's a hurricane. So that was weird. And then here's how they ruin it. Here's the cliffhanger. The gun is like spinning on that helicopter. So it's kind of a cliffhanger. But then they show the preview for the remaining 3 episodes next spring. They basically show that they're like, oh, forget about them. We got what we want. We're going to go show off our power. And I'm like, you took a cliffhanger and you just you ruined it. You ruined it in the next sentence. They don't make any sense to me. I'm sorry.
I thought that was nice.
Don't worry about them. We'll just go show off our power to somebody else. Where am I? Who wrote this? Let me talk to you for a minute. I'm Guy on Couch. Let me tell you something.
Who booked this crap?
Thank you. So with all that being said, Alex, what is your overall rating of this episode?
This episode had a lot of meat to it,
Yep.
and I'll admit, it was a good episode. Was it a perfect episode? No, we kind of picked it apart with what we thought it was missing. So
We're good
I
at
would
that.
give it an 8 out of 10.
Damn it. That's what I would give it. Gotta stop sharing the same brain. That's exactly what I would give it too, because it's like you said, there's holes. There's holes. You know, and they're not so big where you just can't forgive them, but they're holes nonetheless. And some of the things I'm getting a little annoyed with, you know, show me certain things. There's certain things I'll accept that you can just race by or whatever. But there's some things that I'm just like, just show me something. That's all you got to do. You don't have to belabor it. Just show me, you know.
Show me the Carfax.
Thank you. Show the little fox filling Nora's bag with dynamite or something, you know, right at the beginning of the episode. Just like, oh, man, that's awesome that we found the stash. It doesn't even have to make sense where they find it. Oh, man, there's a bag of dynamite laying in the middle of the street. I don't care. Just show me where it comes from. Show me that you have it prior to you needing it and stuff like that.
Well, the episode, it kind of ended with more of a whimper, I guess.
Yeah, it did. It went out with a whimper, and they showed us things for the future that looked very cool, where Rachel's like, they have power, let's bring some power of our own. You know,
Yeah.
She's looking at another pendant where this is at. I'm assuming Grace and what's his name, but I don't know. Alex, any final thoughts? We're running out of time here. We got about 2 minutes.
No final thoughts. We're going to be, obviously, we're going to be gone now until March. And so we would really appreciate if you guys gave us your thoughts on this episode.
Yeah, theories,
and we can maybe have an episode just about talking about that before we get back into things in March.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Yeah, I would definitely love to do that. So just, you know, what did you like? What don't you like?
Right.
And all that jazz, and we'll put it together and package it up out there, you know, and see what's gonna happen with this series.
Yep.
So awesome.
Yep, definitely.
Anything else, Alex?
Nothing else, and it's kind of funny now. A lot of the big TV shows right now, they're kind of going into that hiatus where some are returning in January, some are returning in February, and of course we know that our show is returning in March.
March it must be.
March. So now this is what I'm interested in. I'm interested to see if people are going to kind of forget about this show until March, or if these ratings are going to, if the ratings are going to pick up from this 8.70 that we had, because this was a huge rated TV show. Like I said, the third top one, so great rating.
And I want to say something. I think that they're going to benefit from football being over.
I agree.
I
Yeah,
really
football
do.
is always a big thing in the ratings.
I really do, and I'm curious if any of their move, you know, those three final episodes, if any of that had to do with the, you know, this whole scenario of going into a new year, going into the finale of sports and football and such, and then picking that time where you can come back and kind of the coast will be a little clearer, if not clear. So I'm eager to see what happens with that. But all right, that's going to do it for this edition of Revolution Cast. Be sure to send in your email or voicemail. Just head to tpenetwork.com. All the information is right on the show page. For Alex Cruz, I'm Hank Davis. Until next time, my friends, we're signing off.
See ya.